There are so many different ways you can make money, but society loves to tell us the only way and the best way and the most stable and secure way is through a 9-to-5 job. But since you're watching this Build a Sustaining Business program, I think you might be interested in making monies in other ways, so let's talk about it. I feel like a big thing when you switch from working a corporate job to becoming an entrepreneur is expanding your lexicon or your horizons around what you can monetize and how you can make money. So this video is meant to expand your horizons and give you some inspiration when it comes to monetization. Once I open my eyes, I can't unsee it anymore. Like every single thing, I'm like, ooh, that could be a business. You can make money doing that. There's so many different things. And so you don't have to prescribe to this notion that you can only make money with your 9-to-5 job, because it is not true. I'm going to expand your horizons. Let's talk about it. In this lesson video, I'm going to walk through 8 different categories of ways you can make money, and know that there's so much more, but these are the most common ones that I see and the best way I could organize it. So let's dive in. The first category is through digital downloads. So this can literally just look like digital products that people can download, and you can make pretty good passive-ish income from it. There's so many things you could do. You could set up an Etsy shop and you could sell design templates, you could sell social media templates, you could sell website templates, you could sell wedding templates, or you could also set up your own website and sell like Notion templates, social media templates, all the things I just talked about that you did on Etsy. Alternatively, you could also sell ebooks. If you're someone that is really good at making up recipes, you could do your own cookbook. That's an ebook. Or if you're someone that really enjoys staying active, then you could also put together a workout plan. That's an ebook. There's so many different things, and digital downloads are a great way to get started. The next one is courses and programs. So you have likely taken a course, taken a program before, and this is another way you can make money. I feel like everyone has something they can educate or support or help someone else about. So I previously at Recloseted had our Launch Your Brand course, which helped launch successful, sustainable fashion brands. So it literally took them from idea all the way to launch. And so I had that course. I also offered a program with it. So if people wanted support calls, they wanted a Slack community, all that stuff, I had that as well. You might do something similarly if you want to have something that you can easily start and be high profits. Moving on, the next category could be coaching, advising, consulting. This has gotten a lot of popularity in recent years. Essentially, you're going to take it to the next level. It's more high touch. Everyone has something that they can educate, support, and help other people with. This is just about selling your services and your time to help other people. Typically, you are going to be trading time for money, but the hourly rate typically is quite good. And so this is a great thing to get started as well. Building on top of the coaching, consulting, advisory business, you could also start an agency. With the coaching, advising, consulting stuff, typically you're going to be giving advice, and then the person that you're helping is going to go and execute it. And during the execution process, you might support them, you might help them a little bit more. But with the agency model, you're actually typically going to be executing it. So this could look like a social media agency. This could look like a website or branding agency where you actually work with a client to figure out their strategy, the direction, all that stuff, and then you actually go and execute it for them. So if you're a branding agency, you would go and make their logos, you would make their brand guidelines, all that stuff. If you're a website agency, you would actually go and make their website. Agency models can be really helpful as well, but agency models are hard to scale. If you want to make money, typically you have to bring in more projects and you have to hire a team, and then it can become really bloated and not that profitable. So agency models are interesting. I think in recent years, a lot of my friends and mentors that I know have closed their agencies and gone to do something different. And the next category is a media business. So this basically looks like you building a platform or platforms and building engaged communities. And so maybe you start a really successful YouTube channel, or you have a really successful podcast, or you have a big following on Instagram, TikTok, LinkedIn, Pinterest, whatever it is. And I think a really great example of this is Alex Cooper, who is the host of Call Her Daddy. So she had this podcast, blew it up, and in the podcast she sold sponsorship spots, right? She did ads. She also had merch, and then also she was able to garner licensing deals because she owned her IP. So she landed a really big Spotify deal, and now she just signed a Sirius XM deal. She started with her own platforms, and then now she's founded her own Unwell network, and she works with other creators as well. If you wanted to build a media business, you could as well. And then the last three categories I want to talk about are a little bit higher lift, and they take a little bit more capital, talent, and or time to set up. But the first one would be a tech company. So if you have a tech background, coding background, you could start a tech company. And this could be like a SaaS company, a software as a service, where you start a project management tool or social media management website or whatever it is, depending on what problem you want to solve. Also, you could start a physical products business. This could look like a fashion brand, a skincare brand, a makeup brand, a planner business, like whatever physical product you want to sell. With physical product businesses, you technically do need to invest more capital upfront because you need to buy the products and you need to have inventory. And with a lot of that, that can prevent people from starting. And also, if you're not strategic with your first product and you sink all your savings into this inventory that's not selling, super stressful. And so I supported a lot of founders through Recloseted because we help launch and scale sustainable fashion brands, which is a physical product business, but it is tougher. I definitely think it's business on harder mode, but it is still doable. The last category I wanted to talk about is a brick and mortar business. So this is a physical store type of business. So it could look like a coffee shop, a bakery, a restaurant, a gym, a Pilates studio, whatever. And unless you're so deeply passionate about what you're doing, I highly would encourage you to think of something else to start as your first business, because it is definitely business on hard mode, because you have rent, you have staff that you need to have like actually physically managing this business. And then if you're doing a restaurant or a coffee shop or a bakery, your products also go bad. So like it's just so much complexity. But if you're super passionate about opening a restaurant or a bakery or something like that, okay. But if you just want to dabble, I would encourage you to do something else. But anyways, all of this is to show you that there's so many ways you can make money. You don't have to just do a 9-to-5 job. And I hope that this sparks some inspiration for you. The other thing I wanted to leave you with is a podcast recommendation. So one of my favorite podcasts is called My First Million, or MFM. They have an amazing YouTube channel. I will link them down below, but you can also listen to them if you listen to your podcast. But I digress. The whole premise of the podcast is these two guys, Sean and Sam, they talk about how people get to their first million. They also have a lot of different business ideas. So if you want some more inspiration around what businesses you could start, definitely listen to the podcast. And they also have really great interviews as well. And one of my favorite episodes of the podcast is this one where they interviewed a lady that bought an egg carton business and she turned it into a multi-million business. And there's a few reasons why it's my favorite podcast episode. Because the first one is it really expanded my view of what you could do to make money, because egg cartons are such a like unsexy business, and to think that we use it all every day probably, and we don't really think about who makes these, but she was able to take that, turn it into multi-millions. And so that was super inspiring. And then the second thing that was really inspiring is that I had never heard of this lady before. So it's also really cool to see that someone that doesn't have a social media presence, that like no one really knows, is a multi-millionaire. So super cool episode. I'll link it down below, and highly recommend you check out MFM because it will just expand your lexicon of what's possible in business. So all this to say, I want you now to leverage the Notion workbook down below to think of all the things I just listed through. What stood out to you? What is something you maybe want to explore? And we're going to really finalize that in later lesson videos where we talk about the market and your business model. But just start to think creatively and list out anything else that you can think of that you can make money off of. And then in terms of the email for this lesson video, I'm going to give you some personal stories of my experiences, friends' experiences, and mentors' experiences running each of these types of businesses and the behind the scenes of it, so that it can really help paint a color and paint the other side of it. Because again, some of these models are glamorized and they look sexy up front, but there's so much work, and it's definitely business on hard mode versus business on easy mode. And I always say, being an entrepreneur, running a business, it's hard enough already. So whenever you can cheat a little bit or get a cheat code or make it a little bit easier for yourself, you definitely should. And so complete the Notion workbook for this lesson, and